was 2016 when this charismatic entrepreneur named Trevor Milton stood on stage, smiling as he unveiled a vision of the future: clean energy, revolutionary trucks, and a company that would change transportation forever. His company, Nikola Motors, was supposed to be the next Tesla. Investors poured in billions. The stock soared. At its peak, Nikola was worth $34 billion. But there was a problem. It was all a lie. The trucks did not work. The technology did not exist. And the man at the center of it all, he knew it. Milton was not an engineer. He was not a genius inventor. He was a salesman, a master of words, a builder of dreams that never had to come true. He didn't need working trucks. He just needed people to believe they did. And they did until they didn't. A single video changed everything. A Nikola truck, seemingly driving on its own, was actually just rolling downhill. The truth unraveled fast. Investors realized they had been fooled. The SEC, the DOJ, everyone wanted answers. Milton was charged, convicted of fraud, and sentenced to 4 years in prison. 4 years for a $34 billion scam. And then something even more shocking happened. In 2025, Trevor Milton walked free. His sentence wiped clean. A presidential pardon from Donald Trump erased his conviction. Just like that, he was back. No restitution, no real consequences. So how did he do it? How did he lie his way to the top, steal billions, and still walked away nearly untouched? This is the story of the biggest clean energy scam in history. A story about deception, power, and the justice system that often protects the rich. This is how to get away with a $34 billion scam. Before he was a billionaire, before the private jets, before the fraud, Trevor was just a salesman. Born in 1982 in Layton, Utah, Trevor was raised in a strict Mormon household. His father worked with trains. His mother was a stay-at-home parent. Life in the Milton house was built on two things: hard work and faith. But Trevor, he believed in something else. Trevor hated school. He struggled academically and barely made it through high school. College didn't last long either. He dropped out after just one semester. But Trevor had one thing going for him. He could talk. And more importantly, he could sell. At 24, Trevor launched upiller.com, an online classified ads platform. He pitched it as better than Craigslist, bigger than eBay. Trevor was wrong. It did not. Upiller failed almost immediately. No users, no revenue, no traction. But failure didn't stop him. His next venture, the Hybrid Systems, focused on natural gas storage for trucks. It wasn't a revolutionary idea, but Milton knew how to sell it like one. He managed to convince Worthington Industries to buy the hybrid in 2014. It seemed like a win, until Worthington realized the technology was overhyped and underdeveloped. They sued Milton, but by the time the lawsuit hit, Trevor had already moved on because he had his next big idea. In 2015, Trevor founded Nikola Motors. Named after Nikola Tesla, the company was supposed to do what no one else could: revolutionize trucking. Trevor was not an engineer. He was not a scientist, but he was a storyteller. And he knew exactly what investors wanted to hear. If it sounded like science fiction, that's because it was. But investors didn't ask too many questions. Trevor was too charismatic. He spoke with too much conviction. He painted a future that seemed inevitable. So money poured in. Nikola was born. And Trevor Milton, he was about to sell the biggest lie of his life. June 2016, Salt Lake City, Utah. Trevor Milton takes the stage at Nikola's grand unveiling event.
Future in Europe, where Nikola trays replace all diesels.
The audience is buzzing with anticipation. On display is the Nikola One, a hydrogen-powered semi-truck that promises to revolutionize the trucking industry. The crowd erupts in applause. Investors are hooked. Journalists rush to write headlines. But there's a problem, a big one. The truck isn't fully functional. It's not even close. The Nikola One couldn't drive on its own. The dashboard screen was just a sticker. The hydrogen fuel cells, non-existent. It was all an illusion, a $34 billion illusion. But the audience didn't know that. And by the time anyone started asking questions, Nikola was already worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Over the next 4 years, Trevor became a media sensation. He flooded social media with grand promises. By 2018, Nikola was the hottest name in transportation. Trevor secured big name partners like Bosch, GM, and Ryder. There were zero. Nikola had no infrastructure, no fuel supply, no real technology. But that didn't matter, because in 2020, Trevor pulled off his biggest move yet. June 2020, Nikola goes public in a SPAC merger, a shortcut to the stock market. The result, Wall Street goes crazy. Nikola's stock skyrockets. It hits a valuation of $34 billion, more than Ford. Trevor Milton's net worth explodes to $8.5 billion. All of it built on thin air. But it wasn't enough. Milton wanted more. In September 2020, Nikola announced a $2 billion deal with General Motors.
Just crossing, Nikola and GM have signed a memorandum of understanding. This supersedes that agreement that was announced back in September, in which GM would receive a $2 billion equity stake for contributing its battery technology and manufacturing the battery.
A battery hydrogen hybrid pickup that was about to compete with the Tesla Cybertruck and Ford F-150. There was one problem: the Badger did not exist. The prototype was a modified Ford truck. GM had signed a deal without verifying Nikola's technology because there wasn't any, but Trevor had fooled them, and now he was playing on a level far bigger than he had ever before. The scam was working. The cracks were starting to show because one small research firm was about to take Nikola down. For years, Trevor Milton's empire thrived on hype, bold promises, and little substance. But in September 2020, one small research firm would pull the curtain back and expose the biggest corporate lie of the decade. Hindenburg Research, a forensic financial firm specializing in uncovering corporate fraud. They had been watching Nikola for months, and on September 10, 2020, they published a report that changed everything. It was a bombshell. The report detailed dozens of fraudulent claims, including fake technology, false production timelines, lies about hydrogen infrastructure, and most damning of all, the Nikola one never worked. It never drove. Instead, the truck was towed to the top of a hill and simply rolled down while cameras filmed it from angles that made it appear self-powered. The entire video was a fraud, and suddenly, Wall Street started asking real questions. Within hours, Nikola's stock began to collapse. Within days, the SEC, the DOJ, launched investigations. And within a week, Nikola's most important deal, the $2 billion GM partnership, was in serious jeopardy. After years of lying, deceiving, and cashing in, Trevor Milton was finally cornered. His resignation wasn't an admission of guilt, but to the public, it was clear. Nikola was a house of cards, and it had just collapsed. But stepping down wasn't the end of his problems, because the government wasn't done with him yet. It was the moment investors had been waiting for, July 29, 2021. Nearly a year after the Hindenburg report exposed Nikola's lies, the US government made it official. Trevor Milton was charged with 3 counts of criminal fraud, 1 count of securities fraud, 2 counts of wire fraud. Each charge carried a potential sentence of up to 20 years in prison. The indictment spelled out what many had already suspected. Trevor Milton had intentionally lied to inflate Nikola's stock price and enrich himself. He wasn't just exaggerating, he was fabricating. Trevor had built a fantasy, and he sold that fantasy with complete confidence. He told the public Nikola was producing hydrogen when it wasn't. He claimed the trucks were fully functional when they weren't. He promised revolutionary batteries that didn't exist. And he made those statements again and again, even as internal emails and whistleblower reports contradicted him.